Hello and welcome back to Show Studio, where today we're once again in Paris. We're not, unfortunately, but we're looking at Paris, and it is Chanel, always a highlight of Paris couture, and the pictures we've seen are making us think that this is probably going to be the usual thing, i.e. a blockbuster. But before we start talking about it and really looking closely at it, I would like my panel today to introduce themselves.
Hello, my name's Amy de la Haye. I'm a professor of dress history and curatorship at London College of Fashion. I've written a book on Chanel, and I'm organising an exhibition of her paintings of her from 1967 to 1971 in September.
Perfect.
I'm Emma Elwick-Bates. I'm the style editor of Vogue, huge Chanel fan, and hopefully future Chanel Couture customer.
And I'm Dolly Jones. I'm editor of Vogue.co.uk.
Are you a fan?
I'm a fan also,
cool.
yes. And
So
hopefully a customer.
here we are. We're all fans, but we're going to be a little critical, I hope.
We will.
Well, we're just flicking through the pictures very quickly, but let's go to the first one. And maybe the second one. We'll come back to the first one in a moment. And the third one. Right, let's go back to the first two. Dolly, what's your immediate reaction when you see those two?
Well, I love about Chanel that you always know exactly where you are immediately. First of all, you walk into the Grand Palais and it's always, transformed into something magnificently, amazingly different.
Yes.
And just by its very, exuberance, you know that it's Chanel. And then, of course, there's always a bit of tweed just to make you absolutely sure that you're there.
Just in case.
But it's nice because it's immediately modern. You see it's tweed, and you could never think, oh God, here's Chanel's tweed again, because the way he mixed it up and all the different textures and all the different ideas knitted in. I think it's always, you're interested straight away. I am.
Yeah, no, I like immediately. It's like, it's a little bit day, it's a little bit night. There's sequins thrown in, and he always just like something that will throw you a little bit gimmicky, a little bit off kilter. The giant belts, the little hats, which I'm not sure they're Edwardian, but then they feel like a little bit like Felix, that young buffalo boy, especially with the pompadour.
Yes, absolutely.
You immediately think that it's kind of definitely more of a boyish kick.
I think it's very, it's very accommodating. I think most women would think, wow, that's great, particularly if they want a formal event that they've got to go to. What do you think, Amy?
Well, I'm the historian here, so I'd say Chanel would hate it, because she always thought that a woman's knees were her worst part and should be best concealed.
I think, in fact, we have to admit that Chanel would have hated much that that Lagerfeld's been done over the years in her name. But, she's dead and gone, and he must do it as he feels
Absolutely,
right.
I agree.
And I have to say, every British woman I know likes a covered up black opaque leg for winter.
Well, there we are. That's a very interesting point.
The hemlines can be short if you're...
But yes, I think that's probably very true.
Yeah.
Very true.
But I don't think French women would agree. They're more stockings.
Well, maybe. I'm not so very good on that. I can't necessarily answer or comment on that. I would like to look at, where do you think what has he done with the set? They look like, is it meant to be a school hall, or is it meant to be a cinema?
Well, I think
French
on the stage
cinema.
in front of them, from what I saw on Twitter, there's a kind of really futuristic cityscape going on ahead. So there's something kind of futuristic going on. But then, the chairs look as if they're in a sort of school auditorium, rather old-fashioned. Yeah. And then we saw another picture, didn't we, that looked rather Blitz-like somehow.
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely.
I thought it looked like Cecil Beaton's photographs in the war of Oxford
Yes.
Street, where all the sort of the chaos and broken buildings. So to me it had that sort of damaged theatrical sort of Cecil Beaton wartime photograph feel.
Well, I guess it's the only austerity that there is in it, because I'm
That's
sure...
what I quite like the most, one of the most accomplished modern couturiers, almost in an Amdram setting.
Yes, actually, that's
It's
true.
quite a nice
Village
twist
Hall.
on it.
Village Hall,
It is,
yes.
with those wooden, with those wooden seats. But I think, to me, yes, it looked like a theatre of
Right.
some kind. And Michel Gaubert's music sounded very quite upbeat and vaudeville.
Actually did. It was very jolly, really. What are we feeling about you like the hats, do you, Amy?
I'm intrigued by them.
Right, okay.
What are they? Are they kind of peaked caps?
Well,
I
they
can see
look
somebody
a little
walking away on the
sort of-
right.
They
It
look
looks
a
like
bit
it's a
twee
cap.
to me. It's almost like a little bonnet stuck on the top.
But I find with Chanel, you know, there's always that classicism, and it's the tweed and it's the skirt suit, and I think he always needs these slightly kooky extras, you know, that's what he uses.
To make it feel now.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes. Because the product really doesn't change that much, you know.
Especially with the couture shows, I find, you know,
Quite.
we've got our
Because
tweed suits, we have our gowns.
Yeah.
But I think then when you, couture isn't really done justice in photographs like this, because when you see them up close, the
Yes.
craftsmanship is absolutely
Yes.
extreme, particularly in Chanel. Every single little movement is a different individual feather, you know, it's...
One of the two problems I think, is, one, we don't see the movement of these things, which always work so beautifully with the body, and
She looks great.
we don't see the backs. Well, we're actually seeing the back of one there, but I think it's very important that we see the complete thing, but we can't do anything about that. Do we like that tweed?
I do.
I do.
I think it's quite, it's younger and
Yeah.
tougher, and I think there's always, you know, that big worry about the couture scene and keeping it younger and making sure there's new couture customers, and I think he's immediately done it. It's thigh-high boots, it's shredded mini tweed suits.
And it looks urban in a way that we associate tweed with the country and blending
Yes.
with the rural environment.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, I
And
must-
this is unashamedly
Well-
urban
Yeah.
and modern.
Yeah, I haven't actually associated Lagerfeld's tweed with the country for quite a long time.
But there was a green one a while ago, wasn't there?
Yeah, but it wasn't exactly country.
No, it wasn't country, but
exactly
it
country, I
had
don't
a
think.
nod to the country.
I wonder if he knows anything about the country. He seems such a totally urban man. I can't imagine him in wellies, can you?
He'd
Oh,
probably
you
wear
never
plus
know.
fours if he meant to.
Yeah.
If he was, yes.
He'd go in for a full
well, it would
look.
be
He
a
would do the
statement.
full
It would
look,
be a
yes.
statement, that's true.
Oh, I'd
Yeah,
love
I
to
could
see
see him
it.
in a country house in his 18th century dress.
Well, maybe.
Alexis Mobile said this week that his customers are often teenagers for his couture customer, because, you know, their grandparents and their parents have been couture customers, and it's been kind of passed on. And I think some of these clothes, you can imagine young girls.
That's what
you
I
know, for
think.
Oh,
whom
sure,
money
that's
is,
a
you know,
lovely
object. You
young
can-
look. Yes.
And the really broad belt as well is youthful, isn't it?
Yeah.
Because that really sort of
sits on the hip,
accentuates
the swing. But
yeah, the figure.
I'd lose the
Yes.
hat though on that one.
yeah, they're a great styling prop there.
Well, it's very understated. What is interesting also is he seems to be sticking very definitely to the shorter skirt, which not all of Paris has been doing. Nothing leaps to mind to say about that.
Except it's
No,
nautical.
it's-
It's that navy
Well-
white
And the
nautical.
backs of the tweed coats had that similar, like, nautical.
Yes, I like
Yeah.
the
I
back,
did like that as a
yes.
detail.
And that
But
looks
once
quite-
again, you know, that's Alexa Chung, that's Siki Woodhouse. It's that younger
Yes.
girl about town.
And quite structured as well. Looking, I mean, the sort of the stand-up collar, and it looks very sort of like modern in a late 60s sort of way.
Yes.
So we're now seeing the hair without the hats.
And I must say I prefer
With
no
the hat.
No hat.
No
I
hat.
don't like those hats. I thought they looked particularly silly from the back.
The fabric's beautiful.
Yeah. Well, there's, having said he was sticking to the mini, here's a
Here's a
complete
full length,
change.
yeah.
Yes.
But it's still quite fitted and longer and...
Yes.
Yeah,
The
it's
one that was
narrow.
a surprise was two back. Can we go back to
The big coat.
That was quite a surprise.
Yeah.
No, I'm sorry. That was quite a surprise. I think.
But it really does the fabric justice, doesn't it? 'Cause you see
Indeed.
a really big
Well, there's so much
expanse.
more of it. Yeah.
Really
But
tapped
also
down.
that trapeze, you know, it's given it that swing. Look at the way she's holding her hands,
Yeah.
and then with the pompadour,
Yes.
you know, it's that, as I said, it's that quite kicky tomboy person.
I bet that she feels terrific in that.
She's swinging.
Because she'll be swinging
Yeah.
and she
Yeah.
knows what's happening with her back and everything, you know. That looks a bit dowdy to me. I think,
I agree, but I mean the thing about it is that the sequins will morph into the kind of tweed. They're so cleverly
Yes.
put together, the
Yes.
fabrics. But yeah, as a look, I don't think it's the best one.
Jenny Boucher. That's the gown. It's quite rock and roll casting as well, though. Is that a jumpsuit? Lurex tweed jumpsuit.
Well, I'd like to think it was.
It looks
but
like
it's
a
very
dress,
difficult
but-
to. No, it's
Oh no, it's not. It's,
No,
it's trousers with a
yeah,
top. Yeah.
yeah.
I think the silhouette is striking.
Every now and again, he kicks right back to his early days, you know, and that's so sort of, it's almost Balenciaga
Yeah.
in the 50s or 60s.
And so was the navy and white with the raised
Yes,
neckline.
absolutely. I was thinking of Givenchy, but you're right, it's more
Yeah.
Balenciaga. I mean, he has got a fantastically long history, and I suspect that he doesn't forget any dresses that he's ever seen. He's got this sort of amazing man. He really does have an amazing mind, I think, Lagerfeld.
Yeah, he just never stops. He never stops.
No, and he's got this protean interest in everything, really, and knowledge.
Yes.
And he
I
also,
mean, he's
he's
getting
really
on,
aware
but he
of
doesn't
his...
seem to have... Sorry, go on.
No, I was just going to say he's really aware of his own persona. So when he makes all these kind of controversial statements, which are hysterically funny and incredibly
Yes.
rude sometimes,
Well,
but
he's
he knows
lovely
exactly
at
what
it.
they're going to do there
Yes.
for Twitter. They're to create this sort of
Exactly.
noise. And
He's lovely at it.
he's incredibly self-aware, I think.
But it's also that
I hope.
modernity about him, as in, you know, the people, you know, he chooses musically to play his shows,
Yes,
like,
exactly.
everything. It's, you know, I think a lot of people always suspect, you know, does he have this like team of like zeitgeist advisors? But I think it's just him.
I'm sure it's
I
him.
think you're right.
I'm sure it's him. He's sempiternally modern, you know, he keeps sort of reinventing himself for the mood of the time. In fact, makes the mood of the time in many ways.
And endlessly curious,
Oh yes,
which is
certainly.
extraordinary.
Yeah, it's true. Do you really like those hats?
I don't like them. I think they're adding a kind of good point of interest. As I said, it's kind of taking you to different places. You know,
Right.
that you can feel a little bit of kind of like Buffalo and Petrie, and I feel that with like the boots and that those swaggering girls.
They remind
I
me of
really
tipped up
love that.
bonnets. Sorry.
Yeah, bonnets. Yes, I said earlier I thought they were like bonnets. The nice thing is they'll never appear on the high street, and obviously, the woman who buys that look is going to say no to the hat. We hope.
It'll be interesting if she takes on the belt though, because I do
Yeah.
think
Well,
once again, like the hat, to me that's a styling prop. That's not
you're right.
like a game-changing
Yes,
accessory.
no, you're absolutely right. Is that the tweed that we said we liked earlier? No, it's not, is it? The one in the back, with her back to us.
It's another one. The other one had a much squarer,
That's right, yes.
much more nautical nod.
But I think it's probably the same sort of tweed. Okay? Mm-hmm.
The futurism coming through, like
Yeah.
the cityscape.
Emma, who would you choose to photograph these clothes for Vogue? Who do you think would
Gosh, that's
Get
interesting.
get the feel of it? Probably himself, of course. He'd want to
Yeah.
photograph himself. One of the things
I
that-
would love to see them done by Joe McKenna
Yes.
and Bruce, because you know people that are so associated with that kind of, you know, a piece of grey marl t-shirt, but that youth, the people that they like shooting very young people,
Yes.
and I'd like to see it deconstructed.
Right. I think you're
in
right.
black and white.
I think you're absolutely right. The one thing I would say that he doesn't do very well, and this will probably get me banned from future, I think he is not a very good photographer.
Why?
Is that sacrilege?
What is not good about it?
I think he doesn't understand how to bring out the personality
To
of the
take
dress
it
or the
away and give it
person.
a new character. That's why I think it'd be very interesting to see, you know, Joe and Bruce.
That would be fantastic. I agree. Right, well, what are we really thinking at this point? Are we halfway through? Not quite. Do you feel just a little bit of a yawn coming on?
The thing with the Chanel show, I quite often feel like this, is that I wanted to keep going and I want to see what else comes, because he does save quite a lot of new ideas till later on in the show, I think.
Well, yes,
And
yes.
so you have to kind of...
Yes. Well, let's slide along and see if it's true this time. Amy, what are you thinking at this point?
It's eminently wearable, but perhaps not thrilling, or I mean, I don't think if you had to review what we've seen so far, it would be very hard to highlight what is perhaps distinctive about this
The only
collection.
thing
other
was
than the
really
belts
that
and
slightly
hats.
futuristic pointy shoulder, which other than
which
that,
is the only new thing. Otherwise, it's black and white and tweed.
Yeah,
Really?
you can't think of any new words particularly, but you know, presumably there are new techniques and new fabrics that you know, if we were closer to them and could see them move.
Well, the
we'd
great
be
thing
far
is,
more
I think
impressed.
he really does understand what couture is about, as you said,
absolutely.
Dolly. The workmanship will just be fantastic. And
I
that
think that,
really
the layering
what
is
you're
very
buying.
beautiful as well. The layering
Also,
of fabric
yes.
onto fabric and the leather belt is
Yeah.
that layering of materials is beautiful.
That to me is rather sort of clumpy somehow.
Yeah, that looks less easy to wear actually.
It's
It might
very
even take
thick
you a
fabric.
bit.
well, I think drop waists generally are, and that, those belts, the way they're sitting, that's always
It's not
less
flattering,
keen
is
on
it?
them.
No,
It's making your widest point wider.
Yeah.
It's
Sure.
not a good salve.
absolutely. Right, and also they are very wide belts, very, very wide.
But-
Yeah,
Is it on a-
they are. And
and
that
it-
fabric was really thick, which is unforgiving in itself.
Yes. And if you have there's a lovely story about Balenciaga, and a woman who was, am I allowed to mention Balenciaga when we talk about Chanel? Or will there be a fatwa out on it? Anyhow, a woman was talking to her vendeuse, and she said, I've put on a little weight. And the vendeuse patted her stomach and said, Monsieur Balenciaga likes a little stomach. It helps the drop of the way it drops. But I think, you see, those wide belts, if you've got a little stomach, are going to look very odd indeed when you get up after lunch, because
They're going to be at an
too-
angle.
You know, yes, exactly.
Hanging off the
And
shelf of the
exactly.
hip.
You can mention Balenciaga and Chanel, because when Balenciaga closed, Chanel went round and picked all his
That's
best
right.
stuff,
That's true. That's true.
which was shrewd.
Very. Well, he's nothing
For
if not
herself
true.
or for her archive?
To work in the house. So, yeah, they got the best tailors and dressmakers and employed them.
Really?
And they've now got all the very best petit mains as well.
Absolutely.
You know, with all the embroiderers and everything.
Which is a real tribute, because perhaps more than any other company, they've really kept those sort of craft skills alive.
Yeah, I suppose that's true.
They bought all the factories, didn't they, to make sure that they
Yes.
kept going.
Yeah.
And they've
Yes.
been quite determinedly supportive of them.
And that's what they were doing up in Edinburgh. They were showing
Yes.
Yeah.
the skills of all of these people, you know. I wonder if they pay them more than they used to be paid, because they were on starvation wages for years and years and years, not just at Chanel, everywhere, you know.
Yes.
You know, they were
Hopefully. Let's hope properly.
well, I suppose let's say that we can have beauty and fashion without guilt if we go to Chanel.
Be interesting to see what this one's made of.
Indeed. Any ideas?
We can't zoom in, can we?
It's almost got a trompe-l'oeil effect, hasn't it?
Yeah,
Of the
like
cubes. It's
square
like
slinky
three-dimensional.
toys.
Yeah.
But when Chanel does futuristic like this, I'm less attracted to it.
I think it's awful, to be honest.
Yeah, I do too.
You know, it's
The collection with the stalagmites and all the crystals,
Yes.
yes.
that's one of my least
Post-apocalyptic.
favourites.
I agree.
It just gets too tough. It gets kind of too
It's best
distracted
when
with the
he's
tough
least
guy thing.
It's a bit,
tricky.
it's a bit
really.
kryptonite. It's kind
Yeah.
of- That's quite beautiful, the mosaics. I mean, the proportions are difficult, but the actual...
Well, I don't think proportions are difficult. I just think that we haven't got our eye into this sort of broad, curved shoulder so much, because we haven't seen that for some time. Now, this is where I always part company with Lagerfeld. I feel he doesn't understand modern evening wear. But let's see. I mean, that to me is deeply worrying.
Has he tried to make it modern by making it look almost like it's like a t-shirt top almost?
I quite like the top and the neckline. I think then, below that, then things start to go awry.
Yeah, I do.
And
'Cause
the
it's very
belt is-
modern at the top.
Is it all little sort of embroidered flowers or something? What do you think
Yeah,
it
because
is?
the petals
Yeah.
seem to be
Yeah.
falling at the bottom.
What do you think about that, Emma? That
That's not a winning look for me. But I'm quite intrigued. The black one's
The one that's
behind.
coming out.
Yes,
Yes.
absolutely.
That looks rather splendid.
I think that's.
Oh.
But I can imagine, you know, that being short.
Oh, very
Yes.
much.
You know,
Looking terrific, actually.
don't you want to put that on Stella Tennant immediately?
Yes.
Yes, exactly. So it's got a
Absolutely.
gothic-y sort of
Yes.
feel. Yeah, with bare feet or just... And it's quite revealing as well, I would imagine, when you move. At the top.
Is it just straightforward net or chiffon or whatever it is?
It's
There's no
tools,
embroidery
isn't
on it, is there?
No, I don't think so. It's just
It
gathered
seems to be
and
worked
layered.
and shredded too.
Yeah.
Yes, yes.
Deconstructed and like the set.
Yeah.
In fact, yes.
I don't really understand the top half.
Neither do I.
No,
Not
why?
I. Is that noise an aeroplane or a helicopter?
They found us.
So, Lagerfeld's reacted very quickly.
It's coming to get you. It was the photograph comment.
It's very popular now though. Dolce & Gabbana do their own campaigns.
Indeed.
When he does futurism, it gets very glam rock.
Yes,
Particularly
yes,
that
it does,
one.
I suppose.
With that little lyrics twinkling
Yeah.
as it's going past with a bell sleeve. I want
Would
to
you
go back to
like
the
it?
no, it's the tweed skirt suits. That's very much where I'd be. In
Yeah,
this.
I just don't think he understands evening wear. I think you'd be hard pushed to make that look glamorous.
Especially, it's going to cost an enormous amount. I'd love to see the orders from this collection. I'd love to see which pieces actually.
Especially because he offers
ones
so
go.
many.
Yes, yes. In a way, something like that could, because it's slightly simpler than some of the
Yes.
stuff.
It's
Yeah.
very hard though to get couture clients to talk. I know many a
Oh,
time we've
We've
tried.
all
So
tried.
they're fascinating,
I know, they-
but
Well, I think
It's a different
they're a bit
consumer.
ashamed of the cost of it all, you know.
especially they would be now as well.
Yes, quite.
But if if you buy a new Ferrari, say, you're not ashamed. You drive it around and rev it and want everybody to know. It's because it's a similar extreme amount of money. It's funny that people want to keep it.
Well, it's because a Ferrari is much more serious, because first of all, it's
To
driven
do
by
with
a man
men, yeah,
usually.
absolutely.
Of course, that'll be it.
And it lasts a bit longer than a dress.
Well, I don't
and,
know. They could exhibit your wardrobe after you've died.
And I mean, it's
more than they do your cars.
you see a Ferrari or a Maserati, and you know it's being driven by a tosser, whereas you don't know what's going on in the mind of a woman in her clothes. Are we getting any more, or are we? What's happening? Oh, this is getting worse for me. I'm wondering if it's the angle of the camera, because
Everything's drooping
they've
to
all-
one right-hand
they've
side.
all been- Well, no, don't you feel they've all been looking a bit top-heavy and long-torsoed? I wonder if it's because the camera's just a little bit above. Because, I mean, that's a very, very strange
Lampshady
proportion. and-
shape, isn't it?
Yes. I mean, maybe it's his glance back to Poiret or somebody, because, in a sense, it is a bit sort
Yeah.
of that period, isn't it?
Lindsay Wixon.
There's so many of them that just look too big.
I was just going to
for
say,
the
it doesn't
girls,
fit
you
her.
know? It's very strange.
I rather love that.
Well, he always gives us a lacy white thing, doesn't he?
And so this is this the bride? Or do we not think this is?
Absolutely.
I don't know. Is this the last one? No.
No.
I think that that could look so glamorous on the right.
So it's a
Well,
tailored
Beautiful winter
suit with a
wedding
tool
somewhere.
like bustle.
Well, is it a bustle or
Or
is
a
it a drop
train.
from from the shoulders.
Because I wonder if in profile it would look not dissimilar from the Yoji, that sort of tailored jacket, famous with the red sort of
With the
plumage
red,
almost at the
yes,
back.
yes.
If it's that similar
is
sort of silhouette. It's
yeah.
symbol, yeah.
Photographed by Nick Knight.
I know.
whose studio
Absolutely,
we're
and
actually
photographed on the
in.
wall in there, I think.
Yeah. One of the classic photographs, actually, of the second half of the 20th
I agree
century.
completely.
Yeah.
Have you gone back to the beginning?
Well, they're obviously not in sequence, but we haven't seen those two before, I think.
No.
No.
But he did start on a sequin, didn't he, with the first look?
Yes.
But it was tailored, whereas that was a jacket with a dress, wasn't it?
It's the day wear for me that stands out.
Absolutely.
Dolly, have you any idea how much a Couture Chanel suit costs now?
No, I don't. I wish I did. We always say that it's above 20,000 and upwards a couture outfit.
Yes, and how much would a ready-to-wear one be?
I don't know.
You know, a little
Seasoned
Chanel
customer on that?
suit.
I think they're about
5 or
5
6.
to 8.
Right.
It's amazing when you think that today we know almost everything about everyone, yet we still don't know the price.
Of
I mean, you really
couture
do
clothes.
not get information.
You can't, but
No.
historically you can't. So when you're sort of researching
It's always
designers
a guess.
historically,
Yes.
you can never find that information.
John Galliano once told me that there isn't a price because they will make clothes for a woman whether she's that wide or that wide. And if she's that wide, then there's a
And
lot
it has
more
massage on it, it's
material,
going to
you know,
be-
and a lot
Yeah.
more embroidery. And I went once I went into a couture atelier, and it was extraordinary. It was like being in a hall of horrors. There were these enormous and little dumpy figures, and I said, "What are these?" And they very quickly ushered me out. And the person who was taking me around said, "They're the customers."
Yeah.
And it was heartbreaking. It was heartbreaking. There was not one with even vaguely a couture sort of figure, you know. So that's why they don't quote a price, because it depends about how much jewellery one put on, or embroidery or whatever.
But it still is one of the very few secrets of modern life.
Yes.
In a way that we know far too much, don't we, about everyone? But we don't
Yes.
know that. And women still feel they need to keep it quite secret.
You mean from their husbands? Maybe. Anyhow, the very fact that you have to take your clothes off and stand there in your underwear makes it a sort of intimate thing that you don't really
Absolutely.
want to
No,
talk
quite.
to people about. It's like when you get a suit made for you, you can
The
see that
inside
they're
leg
correct. You can see they're correcting all the manifold weaknesses in your figure. They've got all sorts of little signs and little marks they put down, And I'm sure it's the same if you're getting a couture garment made.
This is beautiful, but it's bulky, isn't it? To have that layers of tweed and then looped up again.
Yes. I didn't like the loop up picture. I thought it was rather odd. But I guess that on an average, probably no more than, well, even less than a tenth of what is shown is actually ever made for anybody.
Let's say we're most ready to wear these days as well. So many things.
Yes, quite, exactly. And they're always going to come back to the traditional suit because that's what people recognise,
And that's the trophy purchase. For
Absolutely.
that lady from
Absolutely.
Houston, or,
Well.
she's buying one of those early ones, she'll have the skirt made a little bit longer.
Yeah.
Quite, exactly.
In black or cream.
You're right, you're right.
And they make them more and more expensive, I think, so not too many people buy them, certainly for ready-to-wear. Isn't that the case with the handbags? They made them sort of prohibitively expensive
Yeah, they
because
keep on
too many
pushing
people
it.
were getting them, so they were
Right.
becoming too mainstream.
I mean, with clothes,
Apparently Hermes have done the same.
I think fashion people love the idea of the statement garment, But I think that rich women think I'm the statement, you know?
Well, these are the statement.
Oh, yes,
this is the
yes,
statement.
exactly. All those little things glittering away.
Trinketry.
Yes, oh, I like that, trinketry.
This
I
is
think
odd.
that's awful.
Yeah, and it's odd with the rest of the collection.
But this is when it's doing that futuristic, is it the Pterodome, Tina Turner, that thing
Yeah,
around
it is.
the collar?
Oh, it's an interesting thought.
He does get a bit music video, as I was saying, like that glam rock
Yes, oh,
shoulder.
yes.
Yeah.
Oh, I think I think a lot of it comes from music. He's got...
Which I think, you know, the hair and the attitude
Yeah.
and the funny caps
Yes.
is the good side of that.
Mm.
It's Felix in Open Your Heart video by Madonna with very beautiful Chanel jacket underneath.
Yeah.
Then this is the bits I don't like, the pointy shoulders.
See, I think I don't know, who can tell what someone like Lagerfeld really thinks, because he's got a protean mind, it's all over the place, you know. He's much more aware than most of us are, but I just think that he knows that the customer will come in for the traditional suit, and he just lets his imagination wander where it will, knowing also, as we've said already, he's got this marvellous core of people who can give him anything he wants. You know, if you want a pointed shoulder, you can get a pointed shoulder, you know, and they'll know exactly how to do it.
I think you're really right when you said about glam, because the last one was really like, it was like Bowie as well, wasn't it, in the early 70s, and I wonder if it's the influence of the exhibition. And
Oh, he'll know all about that
Yes.
exhibition, you bet, yes.
We're still waiting for the last few images.
Right, okay. On a scale of 1 to 10, where would you put it, Dolly, as a couture thing? Ah, no, that's interesting. That's the Chanel.
yeah, and seeing it in profile, it looked more like a sort of
Totally.
boater or something.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
exactly. Totally different.
I think it's difficult to rate on the basis of these pictures. I really do. I think even if we just saw a bit of the film and a bit of the movement, I think
Because even
we'd
if you
all
just
like
look
it a
at the
bit
tweed
more.
there, the texture looks so...
Yeah.
It does.
Actually, these are lovely, these close-up ones.
And the hat reminds me a bit of the pictures of her in the 60s, and
Absolutely.
wearing those sort of boaters, and it's just
Exactly.
been made with a sort of more pointy
Yeah.
brim. The tweed is absolutely stunning.
Yeah.
It's completely beautiful.
And it's brighter than I thought it was.
Yes.
I was getting quite a kind of
Absolutely.
black,
Yes.
grim,
Yes.
Yeah, and the
urban,
green's
No,
gritty.
it's very much fresher.
Yeah, and the hats at this angle they are much more beautiful.
Yes, but how strange when you do see them photographed face
Yeah.
on like that. They all have that.
It's like Bo Peep, sort of.
But they're much more schoolgirly hats now. So
Yes.
and that puts us back in the school assembly hall
Yeah.
with those
Yes.
chairs and everything.
with
so
the
there's
kicky skirts and
Yeah,
that
yeah.
swagger.
rebellious sort of schoolgirls maybe. Incredibly rich ones.
Well, he always makes clothes that are very young, can be made very young indeed.
He always surrounds himself with young people.
Of course,
It's his
Of
whole...
course, yes. What's happening at the bottom? There,
It's another inner skirt
the
or a
hem.
layer, sort of
It's
silk
another layer, isn't it?
Yes, but what is it? Is it leather?
It almost looks like leather, yeah.
Yeah.
It looks like it's two skirts to me, layered up. It's interesting. I've
You
only
mean
just
one
no-
on top of the other?
Yes,
Yeah.
rather than a... I've just noticed the rings on every finger, which,
It's like him, he wears that, doesn't he?
yeah.
Yeah.
Masses and
Swap.
masses of
It's
metal
really
work.
interesting, but since Nicholas Geske's last collection, those gold rings on every finger at different heights on the finger, it's just become so prolific.
That's right. Well, it's sort of styling that anybody can do. You can go and buy lots of cheap
Which
rings,
is
and they look
wonderful
terrific.
to see at a couture show.
Sure. Well, that's what I love about him. He's always au fait with what's happening on the street, and he takes it and sort of transforms it.
And
makes
that's how he
makes
is-
it high fashion.
someone, you know, that maintains very young fans.
Yeah.
You know,
Yes.
from this sellout nail polish colour to just the idea of
Yes.
like multiply layering those rings.
And he won't just have piles of Vogues around him, he'll have all the most avant-garde magazines as well as part of it, you know, to get the balance of what he feels the mood is. See, I hated those hats when they first came out, but now that we're seeing them at a different angle, I think they're rather fun. I like them.
Yeah, me too.
And they're very chic, very foncé.
That's
Actually, it's
all
so
lovely,
funny.
that boat neck.
Sorry.
I was just saying it's lovely, that boat neck jacket with the very high embellished neckline
Yeah,
coming through.
I love that.
Yeah, and it's very lovely that just not having anything under the tweed, just sort of the tweed next to the skin cut low is really beautiful.
Lined in top quality silk, of course.
Yeah.
Don't want you to be itching when you're wearing your Chanel. Actually, these pictures are very interesting because I'm warming to it much more.
Me too.
Seeing them. Cause
And it is because the materiality is such a core part of what he does.
yeah, it's also, as Emma says, we can actually see them now. There's
Yeah.
much more light.
And when it first came out, I kind of liked the style, but I felt it was quite contrived. And actually, the more you see it, the more you actually say,
Yeah.
that's quite cool. Actually.
Yeah, and it's like military, like sort of buttons going down the sides.
But that's the fashion eye,
lovely.
isn't it? I mean, you pick it up very, very quickly. I mean, there are stories of when Dior showed his new look that women came out and were tugging down
Yeah.
their skirts. It's probably apocryphal, but nevertheless, that's the effect it has. You can change very quickly in the length of a show, particularly one like this, which is by a master.
And the beauty about couture is it's the more you look, the more you see. So you get the impact,
Yes.
and then it is the
I
materiality
mean, like,
and
look
the
at
detail,
the boots,
and
those heavily embellished boots.
they sort of extend, don't they, straight from the back
Straight
of the
down,
dress.
yes.
And yeah, the more you look, you just realise.
What's quite interesting now we can see is that not all the guests sat on the wooden forward seats, I think.
No.
You see some of them are
No,
higher.
you're right,
So maybe they
yes.
filled the rest of the palais.
Yes.
Rihanna was there, wasn't she? Didn't we hear that Rihanna was there? That set the paparazzi
Yes,
going wild.
apparently.
I wonder what she'll wear from this collection.
Well,
I
I
think
expect she'll have
she-
her pick.
I think she'll like those futuristic shoulders sculpted.
Yeah.
If it was a jumpsuit, she'll like the jumpsuit.
Yes.
I like that silhouette.
That's, yes, I think that's lovely.
This is why photographers, designers like to photograph their own collections, though, because you know the two different types of photograph that we've seen. It's not
It's
not like
dramatic,
two different
it's
collections, but
dramatic,
it's
the
such a different
difference,
effect. So you'd want to be in
There's
control of it.
Grace.
Are we liking?
Yeah.
Oh yes. Peering intently.
Yes.
Are we liking the makeup?
I don't really have a comment on it. I don't feel particularly.
I like it. I
Either
like
way.
the hair.
Yes.
Yeah, the
Sam
hair's-
McNally
I like it
was
without
very,
the-
very
yeah.
early. I
Without
noticed
the
he was
hats
tweeting
and- yeah,
Chanel
beautiful.
morning at about 4 a.m.
Who was?
Sam McNally. No, I like the boyish hair
Yes.
because I think it goes, as I said, with that younger.
And scraped
Swaggery
back and
attitude.
sculpted with that hat. It's stunning.
And once again, the heavy brow. We have a lot to thank Cara Delevingne for.
Extraordinary, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. It's just the brows. I feel over here so many people say these days, oh, I'm growing my eyebrows, which is not a comment you probably heard a year ago.
Quite, absolutely. Absolutely. Are they going to start a craze, do you think, Dolly?
The boots.
Do you see those boots
I
being...
was just thinking, I'm not going to wear them.
Well, I'm thinking of the heels.
Maybe.
What do you feel about the heels?
He always loves a mid-height heel.
He does, but these look particularly heavy and clumpy, perhaps. You didn't hear that from me. Are we worried a bit about how thin the models are?
That was an example of something that could
No, a few
create worries.
have to say
She
caught
looked
my
very,
eye.
yeah.
I don't know, I feel like maybe for couture the girls put a lot of pressure on themselves because, you know, it's notoriously, you know, the ultimate, the swan.
Oh, sure, absolutely, yes.
They tend to. Interestingly, no Cara though,
No?
No.
It's true.
which
She's
been
just
in
having
his
a little
last
time
few.
out after Glastonbury,
true.
maybe.
But also, you know, do you think because she is quite prolific at the moment that he's, you know, because he always has to be ahead?
Yeah.
Is that why? You
Yeah, I
know,
would think.
she's walking in Versace, I don't need her anymore.
Yes, maybe.
Type mentality.
I'll just take her eyebrows and put them on everybody else.
Exactly. Right, so I think. Oh, we still have small? Nevertheless, I think we've seen the picture, we've seen the story. But we'll wait till the end.
The more I'm looking at the makeup, I think I was unfair when I said I had no comment. But now I'm looking at it, I'm like, actually, you know, that shading is making them more boyish, and you know, as I said, like obviously Felix the Buffalo Boy, young Matt Dillon, more of it's coming through now.
Yeah, I think
With the
it's-
contouring, which
Yeah, I think it works marvellously certainly with the tweeds. Now, isn't that a very odd proportion? Is it just me, or is it?
no, drop,
It's like the
drop,
cream
drop,
dress,
Yeah,
wasn't it?
drop
It was-
waists like that.
Yeah.
I do find horrifying.
But her torso looks terribly long. What's this one coming down at the back?
Yeah, with the
This is the thing,
jewels.
Yeah.
a good red carpet number.
Yes, that is a good red carpet number, you're right. I like this interesting, as you've said, I mean, this idea of a boat neck and then a sort of halter
Yeah, like
neck
little-
inside, you know?
But it feels like a new idea that you can take away,
Yeah,
and I think that's
yes. And that's very now, that look, you know?
And it also negates the need for a necklace because it
Yes.
performs that function, doesn't it?
Yeah.
actually because for someone he loves jewelry, everything
Yeah.
those little silver rings. The clothes have been the embellishments.
Mm. It's strongly black and white, isn't it? There's more black and white than anything else.
But I do wonder, like when he did the whole cornflower blue collection on the plane, that was the plane one, wasn't
Yes,
it?
it was.
I mean, do you think you then went to the atelier and they were like, okay, you can have that in black?
Yes.
Well, I'm sure, yes. I mean, I guess if you pay those sort of prices, you
have
want
any
something
colour
which
you
you,
want.
you get any colour you want, but also you want something where you won't get bored, you know.
But I think black and white is totally
It's-
appropriate for the House of Chanel. It's what
Yes.
you want to see.
Yes, absolutely.
She's quite punky.
That's a bit maladroit, I think. I don't
But
like
you're right on it. The evening wear,
it just doesn't get it.
it doesn't. It's too complicated.
Yes, it becomes fussy.
And I just feel, you know, the modern red carpet woman or the successful modern red carpet woman, she wants to be effortless,
Yes,
you know.
she wants to be svelte.
That's, I mean, it just wants to
No.
be,
And she wants all of that dieting to show, you know.
Yeah.
You know, she's squeezed into something skin tight to her.
But it does feel very 70s, like those last few lyrics.
Yes.
Baggy ones. You could imagine it on, I don't know, Carly Simon or something.
Even.
Even. But I did like that.
Are we thinking it's a vintage one, as it were, or an average one, or slightly below par? Dolly, I'm going to nail you on this one first.
I know, I knew I'd tell you by your eyes. I wouldn't want to say slightly below par on the basis of pictures. I think from the pictures, yes, below par.
Right,
But
okay.
I don't mean to cop out, but I think if you'd seen, if we had been sitting in the show, we'd have a very different opinion, because
Yeah, and seeing them in
the thrill you
movements,
get
yeah.
from seeing incredibly
And
beautifully
even that
put together
sound out of the
clothes.
music, of that kind of, you could just
Yes.
imagine like the speed that those young girls in those swinging coats and skirts were moving.
Yeah.
I think we'd all be quite
Yeah, and the light catching
buoyant and
the sequins and
Yeah. So, Amy, you're feeling that we'll give them the benefit of the doubt, are we?
yeah, I think I'm not blown away with it as one of my favourite collections.
No.
But I do agree that if I looked at the materiality of those garments and I saw them in movement, I think I'd probably fall in love with it. And even just seeing the detailed photographs, suddenly I've become much, much more interested.
I quite agree.
What is amazing with those, the little jackets, is you pick one up and it's feather light. Absolutely feather light. It's extraordinary. Right, well, if we're going that way, or that way, we'll start with Amy this time. What are you
The
going to do?
helicopter's
Up,
waiting
down,
for you.
middle.
I'm going to go for the safe middle.
Safe middle?
I'm actually going to go up on the basis of the day wear, the youth, and I really like the styling.
Okay.
I'm going up.
I think I'm going up as well. Good, well, I'm sure that'll give him great joy and pleasure.
He'll sleep tonight.
To know he'll sleep tight tonight, knowing that
Knowing that we have decided.
we at Show Studio have given him the thumbs up. Thank you very much indeed
Thank
for being
you.
entertaining and taking it all very seriously and giving me things to think about as well. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And thank you for being with us. Our next one from Paris, I think, is tomorrow. And we look forward to seeing you.